I'm going to turn this into this in 27 minutes or less. Will I finish in time? Or will I have to hit the turbo button? You can create along with me or just relax and watch. I'm Gina Murrow, the 27-minute artist. This swan was captured in flight by my friend and photographer, Oli Jordan. We're going to create it in 3 phases: pencil, then pen and ink, and finally, a watercolor wash. You'll learn how to use dots and lines and bits of white paper to isolate the swan from the background. I'll also show you an easy way to control where the paint goes and how to keep your watercolors loose and fresh. I get a bit involved drawing the swan and barely leave enough time for the watercolors. Do I finish in time, or do I have to hit the turbo button? Here are the supplies you'll need. A sheet of 140-pound watercolor paper taped with artist tape to a foam core board. A number 8 round watercolor brush, a pencil, a waterproof pen, and paint in just 3 colors, and paper towels. Don't forget the paper towels. All right, painters, off to the studio we go. First thing we're going to start with is a mechanical pencil. It can be any kind. This happens to be a 0.7 millimeter. And just sketching in ever so lightly, we're going to get our shapes in. What I'm looking for is kind of the points where it changes. So I might put a dot here, 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 so that my wings don't go off the paper. And I'm just going to lightly start marking in the points of the swan that I want to make. I'm going to come back in with pen and tighten these up. The swan's black mask is real distinctive. It's going to help me make her beak, or his beak, I'm not sure which. And they have a little bit of a square end to their nose. I think I might make that a little bit longer. You don't have to draw the line solid. In fact, you shouldn't. Put in just little bits of hints of where you're headed, especially if you're in the bright light. You don't want that to be solid. We're going to go back over it with pen here in a minute. We're just kind of marking off where the wing tips are, where the feathers are. Let's get the body in here. And if you use more straight marks, even on curved edges, imagine you're outlining it with toothpicks, you will get a stronger shape. I don't know why. There is a science reason why that I don't remember. But it works like a charm. You'll find me forgetting sometimes to use the straight lines. Just go back and fix it. And then there's little feathers here. We'll get this wing before we come back in. And there's a curve. Actually, I think I'll make the curve like that. Okay, we'll draw them back in with the pen. Now you can use almost any pen for this, but there's some favorites. I have fallen in love with these little micro pens. I get them at Michael's, but you can get them at an office supply. You can order them online. All sorts of different places you can get them because they're pretty popular. They use them with mechanicals. And they make a nice archival and thin line that's easy to work with. We're roughly going to have some shading there, some shading here. Now you probably can barely see that on the camera. So we're going to switch over. We'll first use this. No, let's first go to this tip. This is a Tombow pen. It says Furinosuke. My Japanese isn't very good. It's made for lettering, and has kind of a flexible brush tip. And let's get this eye in first. If I press harder, the stroke that I make is darker. Make sure you leave some white for the eye. The eye highlight, that may be a little bit big highlight, but we can change it. Again, you don't have to make it solid like a coloring book. In fact, you kind of want to just hint at it. Dots. But let's go ahead and solid in this, because this part of the black is part of the distinctive look of a swan. This swan is an Alaskan swan. They come to Alaska in the spring, nest and mate up on the north slope, and then they come back through the Anchorage area in the fall. And they're kind of hard to catch. I mean, they're there, but you forget to go out and look for them. So I know among my friends, when the swans come through, we'll post it on Facebook because everybody wants to go out and see them. This picture was taken by Ole Jordan, a friend of mine in Anchorage, who's given me permission to use his stuff because he just takes the best wildlife pictures. And I really appreciate his generosity. Okay, hinting at that, we're using this thicker pen to just kind of mark in the more predominant lines. This part of the wing is in the sunshine. Well, it's not much sun. It was kind of a cloudy day when this picture was taken, but it is brighter there on the top. So we're going to make our lines with this thicker pen. I'm holding the pen very lightly in my hand. We'll come back to the micro pens I started talking about here in just a second. Now you could go more slowly and make this more perfect, but that's not the point of this exercise. It's very relaxing to just sit and draw. And the point of this exercise is to relax and just practice capturing an image on paper. And we might have time to do the background with watercolor, or a part of the background, we'll see. So here I've got some shadows, so I'm going to do a little bit of lines there. When I'm filling it in, you can make the strokes go in the direction of the shape. Then if there's little white parts that stick out, like you see the white there, it reads like the light going around the object. In this case, his foot. So these are called sketches on purpose. We're not doing a realism photo here on purpose. The point of 27-Minute Artist is to give you concrete things that you can do even on a busy day, even in a crazy schedule. You can do these sitting in a doctor's office, waiting for your kids in line at school. When I was caring for my parents, we spent a lot of time sitting and waiting in various places, and I would sketch and then they would watch me sketch, and it would entertain both of us. Now this is actually a little darker, so I'm going to make the lines a little more lighter here, darker down there where there's shadows. You'll get faster at this the more you do it. Don't just get discouraged if it doesn't turn out the way you think. You can always make something of it. And practice makes perfect. When I was in music, that was what my original goal was to be a junior high band director. I became accustomed to having warm-up scales, whether it was my own personal practice or whether we were in band, and we would always do some warm-up exercises before we started playing. And I've always been baffled that in the art world, they don't seem to thought that through. We seem to miss out on doing warm-ups. And these are perfect warm-ups for you. You could come back, if you ended up really liking your picture, you could come back and do a more detailed drawing easily, with this one being your warm-up. Oops, I forgot his tail. Ah. There we go. Now I'm going to switch pens. I'm going to switch to this Micron 01 pen. It's archival ink. They're not expensive. You can get them. I've seen that. I get mine at Michael's or order them through an art store, but you can get them any place they have drafting supplies. I think Walmart even carries them sometimes in certain Walmarts. So anywhere, this makes a softer, more fine line, and I can do shading with it a little faster. And it comes out as more of a medium gray than it's black, but it reads light. It reads like a shadow. Now I think I actually need to move this line up just a wee bit. So to make that shadow, I'm going to use hash marks, curving them slightly to look like the curve in the wing. And you notice I'm going pretty fast. It's not because I'm a particularly fast sketcher. It's because you don't need to go slow for this. In fact, when I go fast, some of the lines don't come through clearly, and it gives it a more painterly look. I'm looking over there because I have a finished product of this one, and it worked out really well. So I'm taking a look and seeing what I did. When I do 27-minute artists and I'm filming, I get a little nervous, and it's a little harder than when I'm just sketching on my own. I have been reading a number of articles lately talking about how art is what refills people's hearts. It gives them calmness, and Brene Brown said it was a mirror of her soul to the world, which I love that quote. It's a famous quote now. I think we tend in our post-industrialization society to look at art as something that you only do if you don't work, and that's not true. Art takes a lot of energy, but it also fulfills, it gives back. And many of us are in jobs that we wish we were doing art full-time, and maybe we just can't right now. We still need to nourish our art soul. Okay, I think I need to get this shading in. I can go a little bit slower. Yeah, so you can see the lines better. There we go. And I'm making it slightly little half moon shapes to imitate the feathers. There's more kind of a breastbone up here, and this one comes down, changing the shape and direction of my hatching, right? You could sit here and you could elaborate on this and do more if you wanted. I am going to put a little bit more shading here because this wing is on the other side of the swan and is a little more dark shadowing. But if you were short on time, this would be enough for it to read as the swan. Okay, yeah, we actually have a little extra time, so I can slow down a little bit. If you're a detail-oriented person, you may be getting a little frustrated with watching me because I am barely copying the swan that I see in the reference picture. So it would be fine if you wanted to slow down and add more details, no problem. You could stretch the drawing out over a period of days or hours if you preferred a more detailed approach. Now these shadows are lighter, so I make my lines a little farther apart, a little shorter, and they read pretty good. I'm liking it. I think we need to get this, the top of his neck a little bit more curved. A good way to do cylindrical like a neck would be to make the curve on the top come over this way and the curve on the bottom come up this way. And he does have a little bit of a shadow here. Okay, we're down to 12 minutes. So now I think that's enough information to read as the Swan. You could make this a little darker. We could switch back to the thicker pen and just get some of these, just doing it lightly, but it's a heavier stroke. Might help it read a little bit better. Again, the shape of my stroke tells you kind of the shape of what it's going around. And then this comes in there. I can squint at it, look back. Yeah. Again, I could add more if I wanted, but it's not necessary. It's pretty good as is. This part of his beak is quite dark, so I'm going to make this back part a little bit more solid, but leave the front with the little white marks to show that it's lighter. I forgot to put that little marking on his beak. It's okay. It still reads well. Now you can darken a shadow by doing a hash mark going the other way, and that kind of increases the shadow. Good. I'm happy with it. Let's give him a toe. There we go. Okay. Now, we're going to mix up a few watercolors and add some color on that. I did it yesterday by flipping it over and doing the sky. I'm going to try the water this time so it comes out looking more like a foggy morning. Now, watercolor goes where the water is. So I'm going to take a clean brush, and I have 2 tubs, little yogurt cups of water. This is my clean water. This is what's called the dirty water. That's where I'll rinse first and then go in here, but I knew my brush was clean. And I'm going to come in and staying below the white, I'm going to just paint water. Do not touch the water to any part of the Swan. This is on purpose. Most of the time when you do watercolor, you usually do watercolor flat so you can control the water. We're going to take advantage of being on an easel and let gravity help us. You don't have to do water all the way down. We'll come back and do that part in a minute. Don't do that. Just do this part. And leave parts that are not wet. And for right now, we're just going to wet about half of it. And it's shiny wet. I don't have it running all over the place, but a lot of place. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue. This is ultramarine blue. Now I'm using some student grade watercolors that I happen to have on hand. There's more binder in these than there is in a professional grade. This is fine for an exercise. If you find it not giving you the colors you want, upgrade your paints. I'm painting on 140-pound watercolor paper, and I make my pool a little bit on the green side and nice and wet, just plenty of paint, and I roll this brush in it. This is a Cheap Joe's Golden Fleece brush. They're very affordable. They hold a lot of paint. And then I tap it at the top where I know I've put water, and I just let gravity help me out. The key to this technique is to not try to tell the paint, don't tell the paint where to go. Let the paint kind of help you. We will go back in and try to guide it a little more, but not right now. You want it to run. So I'm loading my brush up, rolling it through the paint, and then kind of pushing it on the paper so that it rolls off. If you're doing this in the car or something, you would definitely want to have paper towel at the bottom. I have done this in the car before, sitting in my lap, and managed to not make too big of a mess. When I get close to the bird, I go a little bit more carefully with the tip of my brush. And again, it looks like that's where my water stops. I'm going to get more water on my brush in the dirty water. And pull that color out just a wee bit. I don't like that I didn't put any water here, so we'll just help it out. I'm imagining seeing this swan, go back to your clean brush, seeing this swan on a foggy morning, of which there are many in the fall in Alaska, taking off from a local marsh, which I've seen them do before, even though I wasn't present for this particular painting, photograph. It's so pretty. The white wings of the swan stick out starkly from the dark backgrounds. Fall in Alaska before it snows it's a pretty dark set of colors, deep reds. Think LL Bean. And I'm always dipping this brush in my dirty water because it is got paint on it and I don't want to stick it in the clean water. If I do, you probably have to go just get fresh clean water. Let's add a touch of yellow for a little more green. A lot of these ponds up there are fairly shallow and you can see the green growth that the ducks love to eat, the swans love to eat under there. Now that's leaving kind of a blob of paint, which I don't want. Add water. The reason we're not painting above the swan is because, like I said, the paint goes where the water goes, and if I turn it over right now, it's going to leave a, it's going to run down to the swan. Okay, now get some more more paint on your brush, and very carefully just kind of swipe it up between his feathers that are separated. They don't have to go all the way up. Use the tip of your brush. Handle this lightly. Doesn't have to be exact. Okay? Get a little water on your brush and run it along the bottom of that so that it'll smooth out. That's a little too much water. Touch it to paper towel. So for this part, because I wanted a little more control, but I'm still upright, there is less water on my brush. Lighter paint color that gives me a little more control over it. It still might dash away into the feathers. I don't want it to, but it might. Okay? But what I'm trying to do is differentiate where the white feathers end. While this is still wet, I want this to be wet while I'm doing this. I want the paint that I'm adding now to blend in. Care you want to take is don't start fixing every spot, because if you do, you will lose this freshness that we're getting with this water here. Okay, I've got 3 minutes. I actually have enough time. I'm going to use my brush to bring that down all the way. I have enough time to do a little at the top. So taking a fresh paper towel, I'm very carefully just going to go along the tape at the bottom. I don't want to touch the paper too much because it's going to leave a mark. It'll leave a paper mark, and I don't want that. Loosen my easel. Dry that. Slowly turn it over to see if there's any water running away. It's not too bad. I've got exactly 3 minutes if I hurry. I'm just going to add a little bit of, doing the same technique, I'm going to put a little bit of a tree here. So starting narrow, I'm going to get wider. Don't be overly careful. Okay. Got a nice green already going. Yeah, see, this is more green than the water on purpose. Gently rub it across the edge of the swan's wing, and then just let the water run. Don't fix that tree. It's not supposed to be. And we'll put a little bit of a tree over here just to differentiate this water. You can't see what I'm scribbling, and that's fine. I can't either. Okay. 1 minute and 59 seconds. Do you think I can finish it? I don't want to have to put on the turbo button. The point of this kind of watercolor painting is to leave it a little bit fresh, a little bit more. You could even make these more fall leaves, add some yellow, maybe a touch of this red that I've got going on, just a little. Dirty water, remember? Indicating that there's fall leaves. 1 minute, 22 seconds. Very carefully. You want some of it to be light, some of it to be dark, so don't worry about making it exact. Voila, done, finished. This is just a particular style of watercolor that allows you to leave some blank space. And I have exactly 1 minute to flip it over and show you how it came out. Now there is still some water there, that paper towel. Careful taking it off because it's going to run. If it did run into the swan, I managed to keep it from doing that, but if it did, all you have to do is take a clean paper towel and dab it in, and there will be a hint of the color, but it'll still look good. Now, with 27 seconds to go, I'm going to take a little bit more of this blue and do circle rings like he's dripping water from his feet where he took off. I like it. 3 seconds, done! Would you like to see a preview of our next episode? Keep watching. It's coming in just 40 seconds. But first, here are a few things you can do to help me keep the videos coming. Hit the subscribe button below and leave a comment while you're there. Share this video on your social media or share it with a friend. You can go to my website where you'll find more painting tips, and you can buy the paintings I've created in these episodes. You can also see my fine art originals that took me way more than 27 minutes to create. Book me as a guest artist for your next gathering or convention. I do live painting demos and paint-alongs for groups of every size, either in person or via Zoom. Next time on 27-Minute Artist, I'll show you how to start with a mess and end up with a cute little bunny. See you next time.